Today we're going to discuss how I and many other millennials are checking expensive items off their bucket list while still managing to save for retirement. How are so many people doing this? In today's video, we're going to uncover just that. How is it that so many people in my generation are both spending luxuriously and being frugal at the same time? It's not just high incomes, it's something else. I recently had the opportunity to work with Capital One on their Millennial Mindset on Money survey. This turned out to be a really fascinating project and survey. It uncovered a whole bunch of really interesting facts on how millennials view their money today and into the future. So to set the context for answering our question, let's dive into some of the data. As a generation, millennials are redefining what it means to be successful at work. And I find this great because this gives us a lot more freedom. But when you start looking at the data, it was very surprising. Millennials are playing it a lot safer at work than I would have imagined. For example, 67% of millennials said that they would rather have a steady job with a modest income than become a millionaire with a chance of going broke within a few years. Going along with this, even though that retirement is very far off for millennials, they're already starting to save for it and make it a priority. Of those surveys, 27% said establishing a solid nest egg would give them the biggest feeling of financial accomplishment. This is opposed to spending the money. That's a pretty crazy idea. Similarly, using their credit card appropriately and responsibly prompted feelings of accomplishment. More than 1 in 10, 15%, say that improving their credit score would be the biggest financial achievement, and that the same number, 15%, saying maintaining a zero credit card balance would give them the most financial satisfaction. When asked what they would do with a $100 holiday cash gift, 40% of millennials said they would use the cash to increase their savings balance, 22% said they would buy a gift for someone else, and nearly as many, 20%, said that they would treat themselves to a gift. Good job, my generation. You guys are being much more responsible with money than I have been in my life and that I had expected others within my generation to be. So this brings us back to our original question. How can you check off expensive items on your bucket list and still save for retirement? So here's how I've been able to do it. Number one, ignore the Joneses, everybody else, and just choose your own life priorities. In the past, many people wanted to follow the proven and predictable path to success. Today, this is less true than ever. Now, I'm sure you've seen this. Counterculture living is counterintuitively becoming widely accepted in cities all over the world. At the same time, individuality is becoming more prized than it ever has before. We live in a time where new technologies are appearing all the time, and for many, resources are plentiful. So this enables a lot of people to be able to choose their own life priorities, something that's completely different than what has existed in the past. So for example, remote working is on the rise. Many people are adopting nomadic lifestyles, and people are starting to ask tough questions like, is all of the debt associated with traditional higher education really worth it? Essentially, millennials are living life on their own terms. This is most evident with the many ways that we communicate with each other. It's also evident with the companies that we choose to work for and the ways that we're treating the environment. Each of us now has both the choice and the possibility to choose our own life priorities rather than relying on the priorities of the past. Which brings us to our second point. Once you decide what's important to you personally, you need to live your life fully. You need to be both luxurious and frugal. For many in this generation, based off of these priorities, we live in the extreme. We are extremely obsessed with some things, and we are extreme in our way of ignoring other things. I'm sure many of your friends are doing this. It's not uncommon at all. In my experience, many millennials are ignoring the American dream of having the big house with the white picket fence, and instead they're looking for other things. They're living in cheap rental apartments so that they can put all of their funds into their passion projects or something completely unrelated or something that didn't even exist in the generation before us. You can see this all over the place. With transportation, it's people buying bicycles instead of big SUVs. With food, it's food replacement and going to the big organic movement. With clothing, it's handmade and vintage over this mass-produced things. In exchange, the funds saved in those areas are then diverted to other areas, to other life priorities. Some of these new type of life priorities are nomadic lifestyles, they're virtual goods, they can be apps or app collections, they can be investments in crowdfunding projects, all kinds of stuff. It's really an interesting time. This extreme spending style of spending a lot on passion projects and very little on what have considered historically to be standard or even idealized expenses is something that makes our generation very unique. It's also one of the things that enables us to live these extreme lifestyles. Which brings us to our final point, leveraging tools, specifically leveraging the technology to accomplish our own goals. Now, you've heard this kind of idea before. We have lots and lots of data in all areas of our lives, but particularly in personal finance, we have a lot of free tools that we can use to make sure that we're spending correctly and that we're saving correctly. This is particularly helpful for saving money. So we have entire websites that are dedicated to the latest and greatest promo codes. We have search engines that are dedicated to finding cheap airfare. We have gigantic communities that are obsessed with trying to find the best way to use your hotel points. Technology is allowing us to remove the clutter and focus on the quickest path to our personal goals. Okay, we've come full circle now. So how can you check expensive items off your bucket list and still save for retirement? First, obsess over your individualized life priorities. Second, based on your unique priorities, be both frugal and luxurious at the same time. And three, leverage technology to optimize your financial path to accomplishing your goals. Okay, now I'm going to turn it back to all of you. What financial priority do you have that others might think is uncommon? Let me know in the comments below. Looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.